Carlos Alcaraz y una llamada irrechazable. A Juan Carlos Ferrero se le ha hecho ya muy complicado dirigir al murciano y ha recurrido a Samuel López para que le ayude, quien ha relatado cómo está viviendo sus primeras semanas como entrenador del mejor tenista español del momento. En plena cresta de la ola, otros optarían por comerse todo el pastel, pero Juan Carlos Ferrero ha decidido repartirlo para no atragantarse y seguir saboreándolo en su justa medida. El valenciano ha reconocido que necesitaba ayuda para seguir guiando a Carlos Alcaraz, por tiempo y por métodos. Y por eso, ha usado el comodín de la llamada, un número de teléfono que sabía que escondía un «sí, estoy deseando», en cuanto se descolgara, Samuel López. Y tras las primeras semanas trabajando como integrante oficial del cuerpo técnico de Carlitos, el de Villena ha contado en Punto de Break cómo está viviendo este gran cambio en su vida, a los 54 años. Separarse de Pablo Carreño después de tantos años y llevarle a ser top 10, ha sido lo más difícil para él. La semana previa a comunicarle la decisión fue realmente dura. Tan dura como las 2 semanas siguientes. Me sentía raro, han sido muchos años, muchos sentimientos, los dos guardamos muchos recuerdos juntos. Una vez empecé a trabajar con Juan Carlos Ferrero y Carlos Alcaraz, fui enfocando más mis objetivos, centrándome en el día a día, ahora ya estoy más metido en el papel. Pese a la dureza de la decisión, no le quedó más remedio que tomarla, era la oferta de su vida. Me hace cambiar de proyecto una conversación con Juan Carlos, su idea desde hace 2 años era que yo entrara en algún momento al equipo, esto lo sabía incluso Pablo. Esa idea estaba aparcada mientras yo estuviera con Pablo, pero sabía que en cualquier momento Juan Carlos me iba a pedir unirme a ellos. Yo tenía todo montado para seguir un año más con Pablo, pero en el último momento cambiaron los planes. Solo hubo un momento de dudas, pero duró poco. En la segunda semana de pretemporada,
is once again at the center of controversy after confirming the return of Humberto Ferrara as his physical trainer. The decision was officially announced Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner left much more than just the Ferrara's role in the Spaniard left very positive Italian tennis player defeating his main rival 5-7 and 6-7. 23. Ended his professional relationship with World #1 dedicated exemplary words to the Italian. After the public revelation of positive anti-doping tests conducted during the Indian Wells Masters 1000. I hope to see you many Sundays. Those results show the presence of rivalry that is shaping an era in the world of tennis and that will undoubtedly provide plenty of spectacle in the season that begins on January 12th with the Australian Giacomo Naldi, marked by directly responsible for Sinner's physical and mental care. Jannik, the lethal and sporting drama dragged on for several months. We start the season playing together. Sinner maintained his innocence from the beginning, arguing that the substance entered his body unintentionally via a massage with whom he hopes to continue competing and pushing each other to reach 100% to treat a hand wound. A year begins in which both are expected to continue World Anti-Doping Agency of Novak Court of Arbitration, but in which, challenging an initial decision, they are the clear favorites to win all the major titles in 2026. Sporting authorities acknowledged the accidental origin of the contamination and ruled that the player would face a reduced sanction. His first tournament. As a result, the split with Sinner served a 3-month suspension during the first half of 2025 after reaching an agreement with WADA. If he were to achieve what would be his seventh major, he would enter the Tennis Hall of Fame at just 22 years old. The tennis star's press team Alcaraz and Ferrero opened the possibility of playing doubles stating that the decision was made in coordination with Jannik Sinner's left the door open to that possibility and even debated which side each would play, including the Cincinnati Open and the US Carlos Alcaraz defeated Jannik Sinner in the Humberto has played an important role in Jannik's development to date. And his return reflects a renewed players shared a press conference in which they were asked about the possibility of playing in part of Sinner's technical at some point in 2022. Both left the door open to that idea and even debated his professional career by joining the team of fellow Italian Matteo Berrettini. But I think I'd play by Italian play backhand. Ferrara admitted to having recommended the Clostebol spray to Naldi. I think there's no doubt about who prefers to play forehand and Naldi to avoid any contact, although we've never talked about it. I didn't get the spray to Naldi. Sometimes we faced each other in several tournaments and it was making his job harder. So if we ever played together, I was very clear about the nature of the product and that it should never come into contact with Jannik. It would be fun, he said. For sure. Ferrara stated that he had been using the product for years under medical prescription to treat a chronic condition. I agree with that. For sure. At the peak of the investigation, then I think my professional separation. Sinner expressed never talked about during last year's US Open that he was going through once to share the court in different ways. Needed a complete change in his immediate environment. Although with the calendar we're focused on singles, because of these mistakes, and it's very difficult. I don't feel secure continuing singles and then also have to play doubles we don't get in the past few months. But for one tournament, for the result, I think it would be great to do it. What I need now is clean air. We'll talk about it. He said at the time. Maybe at some point this year there could be a surprise. The first thing we tried to find out was what the substance was. Carlos Alcaraz and his father respond to Juan Carlos who knows this process very well. His father was very direct when responding to accusations circulating that he was the cause of his son's split from the Valencian coach. Once we knew that, Carlos Alcaraz tried to drop the bombshell of his split with Juan Carlos FERRERO in the most discreet and affectionate way possible. But in the end it has exploded just as many expected. 7 years of professional relationship and finishing 2025 as world number 1 are strong enough reasons to think that this saga hid other motives beyond new goals or pure sporting fatigue. As expected, as the days passed, various media outlets began to reveal the truth behind the separation. The first to break his silence was Juan Carlos FERRERO, who, through the newspaper Marca, admitted feeling hurt and acknowledged that the divorce was the result of the annual contract review, in which there were certain things we did not agree on. Now it has been Carlos Alcaraz Gonzalez, the player's father, who answered a call from AFE to try to add his perspective to the whole saga. Everyone is free to give their opinion based on what they know. Brief and concise. A response that downplays the coach's words and suggests he has a very clear conscience about having made such a decision. It should be remembered that it was his father who acts as his representative and who put his son in FERRERO's hands when he was just 15 years old. 7 years later, and after having won 24 ATP titles, including 6 Grand Slams, he has decided to put an end to this professional relationship despite FERRERO having been recognized as Coach of the Year. Only a week has passed since the announcement, and all parties involved in this story have already come forward. Surely this is only just beginning, and once the holidays pass and the season starts again, more concrete information will emerge. Carlos Alcaraz uses social media to celebrate Christmas. Carlos Alcaraz also wanted to respond to FERRERO's interview, but in his own way. He reappeared on social media a week after splitting with his former coach, publishing several photos training in El Palmar, Murcia, with a Merry Christmas and a We Keep Going, referring to his preseason with Samuel Lopez, now the main figure in his coaching team. With emojis of a Christmas tree, a heart, and a flexed bicep, he appeared on X, Facebook, and Instagram without revealing how he feels after the split with FERRERO or clarifying the reasons behind a 7-year relationship. Rafael Nadal was asked to choose between Sinner and Alcaraz. This was his surprising answer. The legendary Spanish tennis player spoke about the two absolute dominators of the current circuit. A new tennis season is coming, and everything suggests that in 2026 the near unopposed dominance imposed this year by Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner will continue. Both shared the 4 Grand Slam titles and created such a gap over the rest that one can already speak of an era similar to the one once imposed by Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal. The latter, in a rare appearance before the press, spoke about the Spaniard and the Italian and answered a key question: which of the two does he identify with more? Carlos is more unpredictable, Jannik is more methodical. Nadal's answer was surprising. He does not see himself reflected in either of them, although he does recognize the quality of both. They are players different from what I was, said the 14-time Roland Garros champion in an interview with AS. Carlos is perhaps more unpredictable. Sometimes he produces more spectacular points and does not follow the same pattern of play. I find it curious when people say he is inconsistent. The results tell a different story. He has had a very regular year. He has been incredibly solid in all aspects. Jannik is more focused, more methodical and, in addition, adds things little by little, which makes him so solid and lose so few matches, he added. The next chapter of their rivalry will come soon, at the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the season, which begins on January 18 in Melbourne. Sinner is the 2-time defending champion, while Alcaraz will be looking to win the only major missing from his collection. Carlos Alcaraz has put an end to a year that confirms the future is already the present. He did so on social media, where he reviewed both personally and professionally his spectacular 2025 season. What surprised people was not that, but the fact that after the news of his split with Juan Carlos FERRERO and with names already being mentioned as possible replacements, the player from Murcia forgot to share a single photo with him. The Spanish tennis player published 2 posts of 20 images each on his social media, summarizing a historic season both sportingly and emotionally. However, in none of the 40 photos published does the figure of Juan Carlos FERRERO appear, his coach throughout the entire year and with whom he ended his professional relationship last December, to everyone's surprise. The first post summarizing Carlos Alcaraz's achievements. In the first post, Alcaraz decided to upload exclusively photos of himself with the trophies won during the year, clearly showing that it has been one of the best seasons of his career. Among the images and titles achieved are champion of Roland Garros, the US Open, Monte Carlo, Queens, Cincinnati, Rotterdam, and Tokyo, as well as world number 1 in the rankings. Added to that are finals at Wimbledon, the ATP Finals, and the Barcelona Open, completing an impressive resume within reach of very few, if anyone, except Sinner today. The second post omitting Juan Carlos Ferrero. The surprise came with the second set of photos. With the clear and forceful message "My Real 2025, the Spaniard shared another 20 images. This time, much more personal and featuring his closest people. Family, friends, coaches, and celebrities are those who appeared in the photos on Carlos Alcaraz's personal account. The issue arises when one looks through all of them and easily realizes that one person is missing. And it is not just anyone. It is Juan Carlos Ferrero. The person who had been with the ATP number 1 since he was very young, and with whom he has now ended his professional relationship. If tennis fans and the most loyal followers of this duo had any small hope of seeing them together again, that hope has disappeared with this gesture. While waiting to hear what Carlitos says in the press conference of the first tournament of the year, this is the closest we have to a Carlos Alcaraz who has summarized his 2025 almost perfectly through his personal social media account.